Great. Well, good morning, Sonoma County Alliance. Welcome to our February general membership meeting. It really is so good to see your faces on my screen. And I can't wait until we can meet again in person, though that might not be for a few months, depending on controlling our COVID cases, of course. So to that end, I'm going to give you a little personal. Last week, my 86-year-old mother and I, as her primary caregiver, had our first of two coronavirus vaccinations. And my hope is with more of us getting vaccinated and the passing of our holiday spike, we'll see our numbers go down and get back to gathering in person. So for a local update to the COVID situation, Alliance board member Katie Hillenmeyer of St. Joseph's Health is going to give us a quick summary from our 3 local hospitals. Katie?
Yeah. Hi, Marlene. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name's Katie Hillenmeyer. I work for St. Joseph Health. So I work for Santa Rosa Memorial, Petaluma Valley, and now Healdsburg Hospital as well, because that's part of Northern California Health Connect, which is one of our affiliates. And I also work closely with folks who are in the St. Joseph Health Medical Group. So that is our version of the Kaiser Permanente Medical Group and the Sutter Medical Foundation. I just want to share, I'm very well aware that there's a great deal of frustration in the community about the limited vaccine supply. And as to set some context, from the very beginning of COVID's insurgence in our community back in March of 2020, when we first started treating the first hospitalized cases here, all of the healthcare providers in concert with public health and the federally qualified health clinics have tried to have a community standard about how we cared for the disease, how we shared the burden of taking care of patients with the disease so that no one hospital was overwhelmed or understaffed or didn't have enough ventilators, and also what standard we maintained about personal protective equipment, because there was a shortage of that worldwide from the beginning of the virus. Thankfully, at our hospitals, we've never been without sufficient PPE over the course of that time. But right now we find ourselves again with limited supply of the vaccine, and everyone has made an agreement with the county to start with people 75 and older who have chronic health conditions, especially, to give them priority. And that's going to continue to be the case. I think I spoke with a colleague at Sutter yesterday, and they are vaccinating 600 plus people a day at LBC who are their patients. And they're still in the 75 plus range. That's where we are too. And we are hoping, the Sutter folks are hoping by next week they can start vaccinating 65 plus. I don't have an update for you about when we will be able to vaccinate 65 plus because we're still working on our 75 plus people. But I'm going to post in the chat this morning a website from the county health department, which is very, very good. It has clinics that are being held throughout the county at community centers, senior centers, at the fairgrounds, through Safeway. And the message that the medical staff here has asked me to give to all of you is please don't wait to go through whatever your proper channel is to get your vaccine. Don't be held, don't, if I'm a Kaiser member or a Sutter member or a St. Joseph PCP patient, just get the vaccine where you can get the vaccine because we are all doing the best we can with the limited supply we have. There's certainly room for improvement in the coordination, but as you've probably read in the press, there is no vaccine czar. There is no person behind the curtain. There's no Wizard of Oz controlling how the vaccine gets distributed. We're all having to be in constant coordination with each other and try to justly allocate to those most in need. And I can tell you our organization has been planning for weeks for how do we vaccinate homeless people. That's another tier of very, very vulnerable people. And as you know, communities of color have been disproportionately affected by this virus. How do we make sure that they get the vaccine? So I don't know if this is helpful. And Marlene, I don't know if, the Press Democrat wouldn't consider this worthy of headline news, but I am more than happy as a healthcare representative on the Alliance to field comments, to field frustrations, and channel them to the right people. So that's what I have to offer. And yes, there's a question about teachers being included in the 65 group. Teachers, agricultural workers, and there's a subset of essential workers who are next in line in the county's hierarchy because of the desire to reopen schools and because of the unique risk factors affecting them. So we'll see. What I'm hearing from the county health department and from my medical colleagues is that the first people 65 and older who will get priority are teachers and ag workers. What else have we got? How many people in Sonoma County are over 75? Okay, I'm gonna have to find that out. I can tell you that we have in our medical group, I think in order, there were about 80,000 people who fit the 75 and older profile. And we had hundreds of vaccines. So do the math.
And
80,000 versus hundreds. And then for Sutter, Sutter has 90,000 members in its community who have a PCP provider of any age that's a Sutter doc. And their number of vaccines they've received is in the thousands. So I hope that's, thank you, Tim.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. So Tim did post some statistics in the chat. Thank you very much, Katie. I know that Brian and I are trying to pull together something to do a very current update for our next general membership meeting. And we'll see who we can pull together for experts to give you more detailed information that you can't find easily pulled together from other places.
Great. Thank you.
So I'm going to move on to my report. The Sonoma County Alliance has completed our 2021 to 2023 strategic plan, which took work from many of you that are on the screen this morning. To succeed as a prosperous, healthy, and relevant organization, we believe that it's essential that the Alliance embrace and model diversity, equity, and inclusion in our policies, in our programs, in our member services, and in our partnerships. And these areas all provide opportunities for the Alliance to better reflect the concerns and makeup of our business community. Additionally, DEI is just good practice. It's good business practice. It's personally important for each of us as leaders, and it creates a sense of belonging, trust, and commitment by the business community. And we acknowledge that we're at the very beginning of our DEI journey and we have a distance to travel. And so I am making an ask right now that we use the chat room on the Zoom here with respect for the diversity of our community. So please post only comments that forward our mission to be inclusive. Brian's going to monitor the chat and he'll respond to any comments that aren't in keeping with that theme. And we really thank you for your work to keep the Alliance relevant and prosperous. The next thing I want to talk about is February is Black History Month. It's an annual celebration of achievements by African Americans and a time for recognizing their important role in US history. As a business organization, this is also a chance for the Alliance to learn things that we might not have known about the business community in Sonoma County. So this group of slides provides some valuable information on Sonoma County Black-owned businesses. And while the Black population accounts for about 1% of Sonoma County total population, you'll see here in one of the slides that it actually provides about 3% of local business. So I'm going to be quiet and let you scan through these. 3% of entrepreneurship, nearly double. So these facts came from the Economic Development Board, and they have been provided to us by our DEI committee chairs, Janet Connors and Gina Lisa Tamayo. And we thank you for providing us this information. Okay, Brian, your turn. Our Executive Director, Brian Ling.
Thank you, Marlene. In our recent e-blast, we've had some references to programs for small business through the Napa Sonoma County Small Business Development Group. And just wanted to call your attention, there are still 2 programs coming up that some state bank has supported. Reading financial statements. Actually, I take that back. That was yesterday. So, and then next Tuesday is the PPP forgiveness and other recovery programs. But doing my research for Janet on this, the SBDC website is not only loaded with information, almost daily. They have some great programs that are, most of them I believe are free for small business that are members, or if you know a small business, it's a pretty struggling time. So I just wanted to put a shout out to Summit for sponsoring these programs and to the SBDC themselves. Just a great resource that I'm sure they would say is somewhat underutilized. So take advantage of it. I want to say a couple things about membership. Some good things have been going on here. We got a good participation today. Clemmer Construction Company, Tom Clemmer, can you say hello? He's a new member. I saw him on the screen.
Hey, how's it going? Just, yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Make myself live. Yeah, just a new member. I was referred by Bob Frazier of Redwood Moving Company. He's my uncle, and just trying to get involved, really.
Perfect. Well, welcome, Tom. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Todd Mendoza has been a longtime member of the Alliance, and he just upgraded his business, Coldwell Banker Petaluma, to a sustaining member. So, Todd, thank you for doing that. And not a new member, but a returning member. United Way of the Wine Country has reestablished their membership, and Lisa Carreño and her team, a few of you are here today. Lisa, did you want to say anything? You're welcome to.
Just want to say good morning, everyone. It's good to be on board with you all this morning, and looking forward to the learning, the sharing, and the way that we all grow together.
Great, thank you.
Do you want to give Todd a second, Brian? Since Todd, are you there?
I'm here. I believe in the organization, and I, like Lisa, looking forward to a little bit of shift and but leveraging what brought us all here in the beginning. So and just shifting a little bit. So in for a penny, in for a pound. So I encourage you to reach out to people and get them back involved in the Alliance.
Thank you so much, Todd. Sorry, Brian, go.
All right. Lastly, we certainly don't have the capacity over Zoom to do our self-introductions, but we would like to. We've been encouraging guests, and today I see a number of guests. So I'm going to reach out to a few of you, and if I miss somebody, jump up. But and some of you contact me. But first, Dee, would you like to introduce Bob and anybody else that you brought with you today?
You have to unmute, Dee.
Bob Ewing is a principal with Taking Action for Living Systems and EB Alive. Do we get to see him or not?
Only if he speaks.
Only, oh yeah, he has. It'd be great if you just said hello, Bob.
Good morning, everybody. Hello, how are you?
Hi, Bob.
And then we have Gina Lopez, who is one of our wonderful interns who immediately, when we couldn't have the original staff person be here with us today, she just came in and did the great job. So Gina, do you want to say hello?
Good morning, everyone.
There she is.
Morning, Gina.
And then we have Sarah Cardona from Greenbelt Alliance, who is Greenbelt Alliance's Deputy Director. Do you want to say good morning, Sarah?
Morning, everybody. Nice to be here.
Hi, Sarah.
And Terry Shore, who most of you know from Greenbelt Alliance. She's the Advocacy Director. And maybe you could say good morning, Terry.
Good morning, everybody.
Excellent.
Hi, Terry.
And I could give a shout out to Virginia Mahachek. She has been very active with taking action for living systems for over the years. And I didn't really invite her, but I just wanted to introduce her since she is here today. She's works for WRA. Do you want to say hello, Virginia? Oh, she's on the phone, so maybe that's harder.
All right.
Hi, Virginia.
Yeah, so hi, Virginia. So thank you very much for my guests coming and for SCA for allowing us to introduce them.
Great. Lisa, Lisa Micheli, did you have anybody else that Dee didn't introduce joining us today?
I'm not sure, is Sloan here yet? Sloan Shin?
I did see Sloan.
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
And
Hi,
Sloan's our
Sloan.
community engagement specialist. And Juliana Graham, I just want to celebrate, is our newest board member. So it's delightful to have her here. And Juliana is going to help us start a corporate advisory council for Pepperwood. So after today's presentation, if anyone's interested in getting involved, contact me or Juliana.
Wonderful.
Misty Wood, you have a guest with us today.
Yeah, good morning. My guest this morning is Sam Wallace. He is the Alert and Warning Program Manager for the County of Sonoma. So he and I work closely on a day-to-day basis since the Sheriff's Office issues nixles during evacuations and emergency management issues, everything else, all of the really big important tools to let you know if there's an evacuation. So Sam, can you say hello this morning? He's not usually this shy.
He might be muted.
All right, well, anyway, thank you for the opportunity for letting me bring Sam this morning.
Thank you.
Thank
Janet
you.
Connors, you want to introduce Teresa?
Sure. My guest this morning is Teresa McAllister, and she's the branch manager for Banner Bank. Teresa, do you want to say good morning?
Good morning. Nice to be here and see everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa. Welcome.
Great. Kevin Zuko, you brought a guest.
Hi, Kevin Zuko, ZFA Structural Engineers. Just wanted to say one quick thing is just a thank you to Lisa and Todd. I've very much enjoyed their perspectives on the DEI committee from the Alliance. Today I have a guest, Luke Wilson. He's an associate principal here at ZFA Structural Engineers.
Morning.
Good morning, Luke. Welcome.
Thank you.
And then I've got a couple of guests that joined me on the Chamber's Advocacy Council, who has also been following the wildfire management project quite a bit. Alicia Benson from Keysight, do you want to say hello real quick?
Morning. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Alicia.
And
Welcome.
Joe Plower.
On the spot. Hi, guys. Joe Plogger from Congressman Thompson's office.
Great.
Hi, Joe. Welcome.
Thank you, Joe. All right, anybody I missed, feel free to jump in. Okay. Marlene, with 8:21, I think we should press on to our program.
Yeah, so we were contemplating the 5-minute breakout groups, and we're concerned about our schedule. So maybe we can include those at the end if we make it through our program in time. So let me start with
Marlene, one technical thing. I'm going to mute everybody, and most everyone already is muted, but you'll have to reopen your mute.
Okay, there we go. So the idea for today's program was born in our environmental committee meetings over the past few years. And our committee members have been discussing the impact of wildfires on our community and investigating opportunities to control their ignition. And Dee Swanhuyser is an environmental committee member who's deeply involved in countywide forest issues. And she brought us this program this morning. So thank you to Dee. So we're going to hear ideas about making our forests healthier, safer, and more climate resistant. Lisa Micheli is CEO of Pepperwood Preserve, which is a great community asset off of Mark West Springs Road. And Pepperwood is a leader in ecosystem climate research, producing critical science to help guide our region's natural resource management and conservation planning. Pepperwood also offers environmental education opportunities for all ages to cultivate an ethic of conservation in our North Bay region. Joining Lisa is Robert Ewing. Robert's 40-year career has been in natural resource management and economics. And from 1980 to 1995, Bob led CALFIRE's Forest and Rangeland Assessment Program, conducting staff work for the State Board of Forestry. So Lisa, it's your turn to take the screen.
All right, so Gina is driving the show. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to join all of you today. And I just love being in Sonoma County so much because I think we really lead the state and maybe even the nation in collaborative solutions for the kinds of challenges we're talking about today. An example is after the Northern California complex fires in 2017, literally the first day that we could get in our cars and get somewhere, we all convened at the Ag and Open Space District. And I would say there are 35 to 40 of us, all of who'd been hit by the fires. And we came together right away to share all the information we had about how to respond. And that's when Dee was in the room. Dee and I had been already working through the Sonoma County Forest Conservation Working Group. And Dee, I don't know exactly how she found Bob, who's joining us today, but Bob was a main scholar at UC Berkeley's forestry programs. So everything we're sharing today really reflects many, many people working together and coming out of their silos. If there's one message we have for today, it's really that industry and business and environmental sector need to work together. There's no way we can solve this problem without bridging boundaries that might have separated us before. And that this is ultimately an economic issue. Even the natural resource specialists that we've worked with in these cross-sector efforts really come back to the issue of the fact that we need to have value and realize the financial value of a healthy environment. And that's why we need your help. We want to share and get your ideas today. Also, there's a lot of focus, the traditional emphasis on making homes safe and defensible space is more important than ever, and we need compliance on that. But as we say, sort of the elephant in the room is what do you do beyond that defensible space? And our forests are not really healthy, partly because we have been suppressing fire now for over a century. And we have a very active Native Advisory Council at Pepperwood. Native people in this area used prescribed fire as a technique for managing the forest for probably 14,000 years. So we really need to learn from them and understand that by eliminating fire entirely, we've actually sort of exacerbated the problem. So with that, I'm going to just go over our plan for today. We've got three, this is the next slide, Gina. We got three areas and we're breaking this up. First, Dee is going to talk about why collaboration is so critical and also why forests should matter to all of us. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about Pepperwood's role bringing the very best science, globally excellent science to this problem to accelerate the pace and scale of our response, and also talk about what the county is doing right now because I serve as a technical advisor to those processes. I'm also wearing a Rebuild North Bay Foundation hat today as a director, and I can talk about how Rebuild is helping to establish that bridge into the private sector and create financial incentives for forest treatment. And then lastly, Bob is going to close with what I think is sort of what's on the horizon for us, or the new territory we need to cover, which is the governance, finance, and business innovations to generate sustainable revenue from essentially the waste products and the byproducts of forest treatment. So with that, I'll hand it over to Dee.
Great, thanks so much. Thanks so much, Lisa, and thank you to the Sonoma County Alliance for giving us this opportunity to share what we know, and certainly we'll be learning along the way from you all as well. Today I'm addressing why collaborate. Well, because together we can create a more fire resilient future. Immediately after the 2017 Tubbs fire, Ben Nichols, CALFIRE's Division Chief of Operations, really the man in command of the thousands of firefighters, fire trucks, and all the equipment needed to protect lives and homes during our wildfires. He posed a really profound question back then at a community workshop. It's simply worded, but it's really profound. Do we want to deal with fires on our terms or continue to chase them from behind? The answer is, we need to do this. How do we turn catastrophes into opportunities and get in front of the complex problems that we have inherited? The next slide. Oh, you got it. Okay. We need solutions that reach across landscapes and through generations. The sooner that we realize we live in a fire-adapted landscape and we need to become a fire-adapted community, the less wildfires will hurt our economy, our communities, and our environment. We need to provide a unified voice because I'm giving you several reasons. There is no answer. It's complex. Forests are complex. And actually the term forest doesn't really define the area of which correctly or efficiently or with the complexity that it is. Forests are much more than trees. They're mosaics of trees, riparian habitats, chaparral, meadows, grazing lands, vineyards, and other working lands. In much of Sonoma County, we have inserted the development of homes and businesses into this ecosystem, adding to the need to increase the speed and capacity of our existing efforts. Why collaborate? Because the fires aren't going away. We're entering our 5th year of severe wildfires, which have already taken 233,000 acres since 2017, which is 23% of our whole county. It's just absolutely unbelievable. The next slide I want to show is a few statistics about our Sonoma County forests. And really I think it might surprise some of you to know that half of the county is forested parcels. 500,000 acres are forested, or they were. The fires taking 233,000 acres of our whole landscape, a lot of that acreage is in forests. But of that 500,000 acres, 446,000 are acres in private ownerships. That's 87, or the vast majority of our forests are in private ownerships. And that another remarkable thing is that there's 17,000 of parcels in those 446,000 acres, and 15,000 of those are parcels in 50 acres or less. Shown here is a 7-acre family forest of redwoods, firs, oak, madrone, and bay trees. The owners thought they bought 7 beautiful acres of land in the West County that had some trees on it. They eventually realized they were living in a forest. This is my family's forest and my little story. But the message is that most of the 15,000 small forest owners don't realize they live in a forest ecosystem that needs taken care of. This is one of the reasons we need to collaborate, to educate and help our family forest owners. And to add to our challenge for the future, scientists predict that the area scorched by wildfire will increase by 77% by the end of this century, and the number of extreme fire days will jump 20% in just the next 15 years. We have a lot of work to do. The next slide, please. What I have been doing is trying to find the right solutions by building relationships, creating a shared vision, and working together as partners. One group alone can't fight wildfires on the ground. One group or a few can't find the best solution. With this in mind, Taking Action for Living Systems has conducted a community engagement effort for 3 years, reaching out and building bonds across community sectors. That's an important for across the community sectors. It's time to come together. We've met with over 300 individuals and organizations in small groups to share our concerns, to share what we know. One of the things that we really did learn, and it was really nice to know, is that most people in Sonoma County really share core values. And I'm going to quote the Sonoma County Alliance's, one of their phrases that they use for describing their core values. We want to be a driver to community health, economy, and the environment. And this is exactly what we found across the board, really. We did a lot of listening, and we are going to continue to actively listen. Today, we are bringing you an approach Bob will describe, which includes input from the community that we have been meeting with for you to consider. And we're asking for your continued involvement, the ones we've already met with, and we want to extend a hearty invitation to others who want to lend a hand. Next slide. So, forests do matter. It's really not a question. We probably really all agree with that. But to describe it a little bit more, forests clean our air, enhance water security, support critical biodiversity, and serve as the world's oldest proven carbon storage technology. By creating healthy and resilient forests to reduce the region's wildland fire risks, we also increase the carbon sequestration capacity in the forest and our working lands. And research suggests that forests can sequester even more carbon than they do now with the right actions, with the best management. Next slide. The next few slides are going to talk about the economic factors that forests bring, and they bring a lot of positive ones. And these are photographs from the Sonoma County Grape Growers' wonderful coffee table book. And certainly you can see why people would be attracted to Sonoma County. And it would be because of the mosaics of the forest ecosystem, which includes the vineyards, which includes the waterways, which includes the forest, some of which the forests are owned, I don't know how many, I'd like to know, by the agricultural and wine industry. It would be really nice to know, because they are also responsible for managing it, and I believe that they are doing a good job. But now the next slide will show you that we must find ways of mitigating the destructive economic effects of wildfires in our forests. This is a 2017 satellite view of the Tubbs fire. And you can see that from this, during the fire, people, and the firefighters and Ben couldn't tell where the fire was going to stop, or if it was going to stop. It could have reached the entire, all the way to the Pacific Ocean. So this just illustrates how much of an impact Sonoma County is experiencing because of not only the fire, but the smoke. And we've all known about how it affects our vineyards and our wineries and our health. And it will continue to do that if we don't step up. The next slide shows that it also affects family forest owners. Here is Fred Euphrat's forest today, totally destroyed by the Walbridge fire. And there's many, many of these small family forests owners that have been affected like this. 400 acres managed for timber production for 40 years. He managed using the best management practices available. And this is still what the result was because of our catastrophic nature of our wildfires. He teaches forestry at the JC now, and has been for a number of years. And I'm sure he's going to be adding lessons that he learned from the Walbridge fire. The next slide, please. I don't want to stay too long on that. amazing what has happened to our forests and our people. Sonoma County, as we've learned from Luther Burbank, is the chosen place of all the earth as far as nature is concerned. Right now, is Sonoma County still the chosen place? It's unacceptable for 23% of our county to burn in such a short time, while still susceptible to losing more to wildfires without implementing sustainable management practices. Carissa Cruz recently told me that her growers are already planning on how to mitigate for the next fires. I mean, we just have to plan ahead, and we need to work together to do that. Sonoma County, in kind of closing, Sonoma County is our landscape, our responsibility, and now is our time, and it's our turn. Yes, we can create a more wildfire resilient future, and hope lies in rethinking how we live with fire. We hope you will join us in reaching out across the landscapes and through generations in this effort. Please join us. And I thank you for this opportunity. I have one more slide, and this is about Greenbelt Alliance's current work. But before I go into that, I wanted to give you a bit of information you may not know about Greenbelt Alliance, who is the member of SCA and the reason why I am involved with SCA. In the late 80s, Greenbelt Alliance published a paper called Tools for the Greenbelt. From this publication, we brought the concept of forming an open space district to Sonoma County. They had not been considering it to that point. I'm proud to be one of the founders of the Agricultural Preservation and Open Space District, and was in the room when the Farm Bureau and the environmental community hashed out, then agreed to what the district's name should be. Well, we didn't do such a great name and making an acronym be very easy to say or to read, but the results are clear. And we are so proud, everyone is and should be, about the formation of our open space district. But today, Greenbelt Alliance is now doing some research. Our staff is compiling case studies from Sonoma County and beyond, and we will then craft strategies for reducing risk of loss of life and home to wildfire. The question that we're posing is, do greenbelts help with wildfire prevention, firefighting, or recovery? And they're reaching out to a number of people in the community, like the wine growers, like I think that she met with Terry met with Ben Nichols, and there will be many others that she'll want to reach out to. So you might want to take this opportunity to think about whether you would like to contribute to these case studies. And if you do, please contact us and we will get back with you. And with this, I will turn it over back to Lisa to give us the foundation of what we need. We need this as a foundation to make our decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee, for being our champion and doing the really tough work of keeping the conversation going and keeping everyone's morale up. I really appreciate you as a leader in our community. Next slide. The next slide. So if you don't know much about Pepperwood, we are really your local science institute. We are the interface between universities and agency scientists doing applied research to solve really our community's greatest problems. And we work on solutions for people and land, water, and wildlife. If you haven't been to visit us, please come after everyone gets their vaccines. We have an incredible 3,200 acre research reserve, which was donated by Herb and Dane Dwight, who also were the founders of the Pepperwood Foundation. We have been doing a lot of work even before getting hit by the 2017 Tubbs fire. In the upper right-hand side, you're seeing a picture of our home base, the Dwight Center on the preserve. Only a mere couple, I think about a month after the Tubbs fire came through from St. Helena, we were actively involved in doing prescribed burning in concert with CALFIRE. If you look at the below left panel, we have a 10-year vegetation management plan with CALFIRE, which we consider a model for others to use. And we have been actively promoting the use of prescribed fire, again, working with our Native American leaders as well, as a way of reducing fuels for when the forest fires do come through. The next slide over on the bottom shows one of the fire cameras, and I hope that you all were able to tune in to Alert Wildfire North Bay, and we were the group that brought in the University of Nevada, Reno team that had developed this cutting edge technology that leverages earthquake warning systems and couples them with the fire cameras. The cameras on the top of that tower there, and the white circles are actually the emergency radio communication system. And so we demonstrated the first of these cameras and helped launch that network here. The next image just sort of shows you the kind of field research we do. We have 54 long-term forest monitoring plots. So we had measured over 6,000 trees on the preserve and are watching them over time with UC Berkeley. And so we have a very rare data set of before, during, and after fire conditions in our forests, which are not well studied. Most of the research on fire in California is based on Southern California and the Sierras. So we're filling critical research gaps. And then our conservation science manager here, Tasha, was just showing that we're also very tuned into biological monitoring and looking at the water balance and how animals are affected. Next. So a tale of two fires for Pepperwood is in 2017, we were engulfed entirely by the Tubbs fire in the yellow on the left-hand side. And then in 2019, half of our property burnt in the Kincaid fire. But the difference in our community's response was really a net result of the collaborations and the applications of the science that we brought to the county and to CALFIRE. The right-hand side shows the outline of our property, and it shows how the Kincaid came in, and those little red squiggles are fire lines. So we were so well coordinated with CALFIRE that they came right on up and stayed at the Dwight Center for the 4 days of the firefight against the Kincaid fire here. And they installed 27 miles of fire breaks on our property and were able to hold the line. They also protected the two fire cameras we had because those fire cameras were giving them incredibly important operational data. And for the first time, they weren't in the dark about where the fire was. You know, they rely on satellites to map these things. And when the smoke is out, they can't see them and the satellites only come by once a day. So in addition to CALFIRE and the first responders having the cameras, so did our community. So we got so much feedback about the value of the data. And as you can see, our green belt that we managed was actually the battleground where they were able to establish control. And they thanked us for our prescribed burning because instead of having 7-foot-high grass that would have just moved so fast, we had a nice, well-groomed area. And in addition, we used prescribed grazing and a grass-fed cattle operation to achieve that. Next. So we really have become experts on how to care for the land after the fire, how to restore it. And we're partnering with Sonoma State to actually study the rebound of this because this forest will grow back very quickly and it will need to be treated within a small number of years. And that's part of what we're learning on the preserve. Next. We're also, I never knew that I'd be in charge of a $7 million rebuild project, but we lost critical structures. This was our barn and barn office in the 2017 fire. And we have now rebuilt our property with the most ignition resilient, fire resilient, and non-toxic buildings possible. And we invite you all for a tour to come up and check those out. Next. And just the other part of our situational awareness contribution, that is providing real-time data, is a flood warning system that we've put in place with Sonoma Water. And so this is really the easy part for us. We are collecting real-time data to enable our community to respond to climate crises as they're unfolding. Next. So when I think about how we as scientists can help solve this problem, you know, this is what we call the fire triangle. These are the factors that create the conditions for fire and exacerbate fire. The first is ignition. We're working to put our power lines underground and be a microgrid supported by renewables. I thought that would be the best solution. This year's 2020 lightning complex fires, frankly, blew my mind. I was not worried about lightning as an ignition source. Historically, that has not been the case. But to Dee's point, this is just the fact that fire is here to stay. We're not going to be able to completely eradicate the ignition problem. Weather, I will just very briefly say, I feel quite strongly, and we're collecting the data, that climate change and the extent of drought and dryness that we've been having, combined with this extra fuel in the forest, is definitely part of why the Tubbs fire only took 6 hours to get to Santa Rosa in 2017, as opposed to 6 days in 1964. So, the biggest solution we can do for the weather is to fight climate change. We will have extreme wind events, and we're doing the original research to show where those occur in the landscape and where they exacerbate our fire risk, so we can be prepared. And lastly, fuel, that's really a strong suit for us. We have been at the cutting edge of using airborne technology, airborne lasers, to measure the forest. Let's go to the next slide. And this gives you an example of what the problem is. On the right-hand side is an oak woodland that hadn't been burned or thinned or anything for a number of years, and Douglas firs, those little teeny tiny Douglas firs, move into the understory. They will actually end up killing this oak woodland if left unchecked. And these are the trees that the Native Americans were using prescribed fire to control from getting in. Doug firs don't do well in fire. On the left-hand side is a treated area where our volunteers helped us go in and pull out all of those plants. So what you're seeing is an example of the kinds of materials we need to remove. So when we talk about forest thinning, we're usually talking about these small trees that we call ladder fuels. We're not talking about taking the big trees out. So that's important from an economic point of view. Next. So we have developed these maps of where the most hazardous fuels are. The maps for the state of California are at a very coarse scale. And when I first met Ben Nichols and the other folks at CALFIRE, they said they can't really use those for planning. And I said, well, how do you find the problem areas? And they said, we get in our truck and we drive around and we look for them. I said, well, we don't have time for that in Sonoma County for you guys to drive the whole county. So we're really proud to have developed this rapid assessment tool that shows where the biggest problems are. And we're working with the University of California Ag and Natural Resource Division to develop a map of what you could do on your property. So this will be analyzed for every single parcel in Sonoma so that you can put in your parcel and see what your issues are. Next. The other kind of regional planning we're involved with is a North Coast Resource Partnership analysis that we're doing with Oregon State to look at where might be the best places to put in these fire breaks. I talked about fire lines or fire breaks on Pepperwood. Well, maybe we should maintain a fire break system as a permanent feature and coordinate with the other landowners so that CALFIRE has a network of fire breaks they can rely on for operational purposes. Next. I just want to say I'm on the steering committee of the Sonoma County Hazard Mitigation Plan. This is a FEMA required plan. They're just about to start the public meeting components of this if you are interested. But this is a critical element that the county needs to look at all different hazards. And we're proud to be using that data I just shared to develop a specialized wildfire hazard index for the county. And it's one of the first FEMA plans that actually have fire incorporated along with floods, earthquakes, and other hazards. So that's a process to keep your eye on, and you'll be invited to review the plans. Next. And then that hazard index will also be then used for what's called the Community Wildfire Protection Plan. This is a CALFIRE requirement to get state funds for projects that we want to do. And it's a community process of defining the best projects for wildfire resilience. This also has a very active public engagement piece, and there's a kickoff meeting February 16th. The Carleone Safford at the county will be providing so we can all learn more about it. I will also be serving on this steering committee. Next. I'm incredibly proud as a Rebuild North Bay director to say that we have launched the North Bay Forest Improvement Program. This website went live on February 1st, on Monday, thanks to the hard work of the Rebuild team and our partner resource conservation districts. So if you're not familiar with resource conservation districts, we have two in Sonoma County, Gold Ridge and Sonoma. And they are the interface between forest expertise. We've gotten them teamed up with foresters and people in the community who live in rural areas. So you can sign up for this program, possibly get support from the RCD to develop your plan. And then there's a cost sharing program here. So this is CALFIRE Technical Assistance Funds. And we have innovated this structure that allows us to provide some incentives, particularly in disadvantaged communities. Next. And then lastly, Dee is also the co-founder of Sonoma County Forest Conservation Working Group. The institutional partners of this group include Pepperwood, Sonoma Land Trust, and the Ag and Open Space District. And what we're trying to do is make resources and trainings available to private landowners. So we've just redone the website, it looks beautiful. And this is a place for ongoing education. Please sign up for the newsletter. And what we do is all the different forest related trainings in the county, we post here in one-stop shopping, so you don't have to go to all our websites. Next. So that's it. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Bob.
Good morning, everybody. I'm talking to you from rainy Seattle, which is where I live. And I'd like to go over 3 points. So what are the governance, finance, business innovations needed to support these sustainable solutions we've been talking about? What do we mean by an enterprise-driven approach? And how can the Alliance help? Basically, our mantra is we're about valuing nature and valuing people. And as we think about valuing nature, of course, we prize nature, but we also don't view it as a free good and recognize that we need to pay for its upkeep since we're responsible for most of the damage being done. In terms of valuing people, all of our programs are just, fair, and equitable. We've primarily focused on healthy living systems, which, as Dee and Lisa have pointed out, are really more than just the conifer forest, but includes woodlands, shrublands, and even herbaceous vegetation. These are the environmental essence of the region, and we believe they have a social and economic value that can be used to keep them healthy. We try to be entrepreneurial. There's a tremendous amount of activity going on in the county. Dee mentioned that we've talked to over 300 people, but there's really a search for leadership here, keeping people on the same page, having effective collaboration, and primarily being innovative and opportunistic. In addition, there's an ongoing financial need here. And really, there's an opportunity to develop a new local green economy, which is going to help eliminate the wildfire hazards and get these systems back into a healthier condition. I'm using the term transformative resilience as sort of a polite way to say business as usual is not going to work. Government as usual is not going to work. There's going to have to be some pretty major changes to get on top of this problem. And I think Harry Davidian's document set of recommendations for the Alliance are really a good add to this kind of thinking and hope they can be endorsed. Next slide. This is important for the reasons you all know that these wildfires are having a large effect on the Sonoma County economy. And we're really in a place of investing in solutions now or living with the consequences. The direct effects are substantial. Over 9,000 structures destroyed since 2017, 230,000 acres burned. And if you add in the effect to the rest of the economy, grape growing, the leisure section, blackouts, and so on, we're talking billions of dollars in loss, which somehow seems to me to be motivation to really get at addressing this problem. The next slide. In this economic context, forests, in the way we've defined them, play a big part both as a problem and as a solution. And this one graph, I think, can say a lot. Basically, Sonoma County has tripled its private forest volume in the past 50 years, primarily in Douglas fir, tan oak, and laurel, and other hardwoods. And the redwood volume has actually remained largely the same. So the bar on the left, shim of standing forest in the year 1968. It was basically 200 million cubic feet. Today, the same area, or actually a smaller area, is carrying 1.8 billion cubic feet. Again, the redwood volume is pretty much the same, but what's been added is a lot of tan oak, laurel, and Douglas fir. Basically, the forests are stocked above carrying capacity. This means that mortality is going up, growth is going down. We're increasing the likelihood of fire, risk, and hazard. Their watershed function is being damaged, and they're much less effective at storing and sequestering carbon that they could be. So the basic hypothesis of what living systems is doing is that we believe that by paying for treatments to correct these problems, by monetizing ecosystem and cost avoidance services, we can create healthy forest systems which will contribute greatly to a healthy economy and social well-being in the county. The next slide. I apologize for the quality of this slide, but what we really want to talk about is, again, we need to get these forests into a less stocked position. And there still can be multi-storied, they can be diverse, but on-the-ground activities need to happen. And those on-the-ground activities can be prescribed burning, thinning, restoration, protection. We're certainly not talking about extended clearing, clear cutting, whatever. This needs to be sort of fit the need within each stand. But we believe that a new industry can emerge to get this done. And if in fact we don't do it, nature will take care of this overstocking itself. And if anyone wants to see an example of that, you should visit the forests in the Sierra south of Yosemite, where there's now over 160 million dead trees. And it's really important that we move forward. In terms of prescribed burning, I think it's important to realize that the most active program in the state and the longest lived one is in Yosemite National Park, where they've done this work clearly for ecological reasons and no others. Next slide. So our argument is that to approach this problem, to come up with a robust solution, requires treatments on the ground, changes in governance, financing help, and economic drivers all at the same time. We can't do this in a linear fashion. We have to get going in all these areas as we speak. We need to act more quickly and comprehensively. In terms of treatments, it's good to know what each of the pieces are: house hardening, fuel reduction, fire breaks, etc. But we need to have a plan across the entire county. And an opportunity exists with the work that the supervisors are doing in terms of distributing the PG&E money and the Community Wildfire Protection Plan that Lisa talked about. Given the distribution of ownership, this process has to involve and be landowner based. The Special Districts Association and various councils are an important foundation, but there's a tremendous amount of work that needs to be put in place that allows us to prioritize treatments in the right places at the right time. And all of this needs to be funded. I think it would be great if the county takes the $35 million that will be allocated to fuels management to put in a revolving fund And then we really need to think seriously about payments for cost avoidance and ecosystem services if we're going to have the institutional foundation to address this problem over time. And there are economic drivers there that are really, really, really important and can play a, and there's new jobs, new professional positions, new infrastructure that are ahead of us if we tackle this in a creative way. Next slide. Let me just talk a little bit about what we mean by payment for ecosystem services. Basically, a resilient solution requires payments by the people benefiting from them, from the forest, enough to cover the cost of coordinated action. In other words, what we really need to do is create value chains and link benefits and beneficiaries. And let's just talk a little bit about a couple of these. So avoided costs, which would simply mean doing the treatments now, providing the funding for landowners to do these treatments, and reducing future loss and costs. Well, who could be interested in this? Insurance companies, homeowners, the state whose suppression costs are skyrocketing year after year. Carbon sequestration. Sonoma County has one of the best carbon inventories in the state. The state has a climate assessment program, cap and trade program, to basically bring forests in as a technology to sequester and store carbon. Why then does the state not distribute the cap and trade money based on how well a region is actually doing in storing and sequestering carbon? And if Sonoma County pushed that, I think a lot more state funds could come into the county to address these forest health problems. And wood products are important. The main species used in building single-family homes in the state of California are Douglas fir. The Douglas fir comes from Oregon and Washington. What if we tried to think about some kind of a Douglas fir industry in Sonoma County, providing lumber for home development and then offsetting the cost of clearing the Douglas fir in these mixed stands. In addition, biochar and other organics from, from basically prescribed burning and thinning in these stands can be used as a nutrient in agriculture and so on. And again, we're talking about really creating new value chains and linking benefits and beneficiaries. The next slide. How on earth do you go about putting all of these things together? It's a challenge that we're trying to face, and we're using a pretty kludgy term, natural enterprise complexes, to denote how we're moving forward. We are starting up 3 pilots, 1 coastal forest, a 2nd Diamond Mountain Mark West, a 3rd Lake Sonoma. And what we're doing is then looking at a geographic area that has a unique mix of living systems, common hazards and risks, but then also including what we mean by benefit sheds, which again are all the folks, the beneficiaries of better management in each of these areas. And obviously for Lake Sonoma, you would include the customers of Sonoma Water. And Diamond Mountain and Mark West, what's happened in this area from the Tubbs fire and others affects the entire county. So the county, as well as the homeowners in the region, ought to be interested in moving forward and underwriting the costs and instituting the governance to get the level of activity we need done in this region. I mean, what kind of an organization can do this? I don't think I know. I think it's some kind of hybrid organization, public-private, some new institution that you're all clever enough to think up, but we need to start working on it. It needs to be innovative, flexible, and really open to new ideas. Living Systems is made up of 6 professionals. 5 of us are retired. We're all working pro bono. We have $18,000 in the bank to hire these program analysts, as well as some of our incidentals. We're a very small group, but we believe in what we're doing. And it would really be great if we could get more of you to join us and to influence how the county and the state is spending their money to look at these problems within the region. And Dee, I think, is going to talk about how you can get in contact with us.
Yes, the bottom of this slide is my actual email address. I'm sorry, I gave out the wrong ones in the chat. And there's many ways that you could help us. These are just the ones that we know about. You may have some particular talent or expertise that you would like to help us with by joining us. So certainly the slide presentation is available through Brian. He has been recording this, so you could share it with people that aren't on the Zoom. You can certainly contact me to join our innovation team. And what we are really hoping for too is to find ways to finance the forest management so it becomes self-sustaining, which Bob has alluded to in his great presentation. We need the business community to help us advance markets for forest carbon and forest products from and in Sonoma County. And of course, if you have land or businesses in one of the areas that Bob mentioned that we are actively working in, we'd love to get you involved. We have a team of people, a team of partners in the Mark West Diamond Mountain area, and we're working to include others from to include people in the other 2 NECs as well. So these are just what we thought were ideas, and we'd be welcome if you had something else to bring to us.
I think since we are actually at 10 minutes over, we're not going to take any questions at this point. I thank you all for being here. Thank you, Dee. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Bob, for the information that you provided. Yeah, there's a lot of work to do, and I encourage everyone to reach out to Brian, myself, Dee, Lisa, and get involved, see what we can do on a local level. I personally own about 27 acres. That is my own little forest. We've been working every year to clear a little more of the ladder fuels, and it's a lot of work. I'd love to find out about the funding that you have on that one website. Enter your parcel number. So I'm going to be doing some of my own research, and I suggest you all do. So you all took the poll at the end of the Zoom, and our next general membership meeting is on March 3rd. And like I said, we're trying to find a way to present the most current COVID information to you at that meeting. So thank you again to Todd Mendoza and Lisa Carreño for your commitment to the Sonoma County Alliance and for upgrading your membership. And thank you to Tom Clemmer, our new member, and thank you to all of you guests who joined us today. Brian, do you have anything else?
2 quick things. It's already been said, but we'll be leaving this Zoom open for a few more minutes. If you have a question, put it in the chat or always send me an email and we'll get it to the speakers and try to help get your question answered. There's some good ones out there that we haven't been able to address already. So thank you. Lastly, we do have a bottle of wine for one of our guests and their sponsors. And I've put everyone on our own little bad name badges and numbered them. Marlene doesn't know the number. So Marlene, pick a number between 1 and 7.
1 and 7, 3.5, 4.
Number 4, Joe Plogger. So Joe, I'll be bringing you a bottle of wine. Thank you very much.
Nice. Thank you for that. Have a great month, everyone. I hope it's filled with hope and enthusiasm for you as well.
Thank you all.